Yes.
Okay, shall I kick it off?
Let's just say hello to anyone who is on the Zoom there. I'm not sure if if you can hear us. Can someone raise a hand if you can hear us? Anybody?
That's not.
The computer's picking this up, so let's just start. We've got 5 chats. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you guys on the chat for responding. Apparently everyone can hear us.
Good. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming along. We have a busy audience here in the room at Heeby Haven. And we have quite a lot of people on the Zoom at home. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm Tom, this is Ben. Chris has been helping us with the IT setup, and Queenie is going to come and help as well at some time in the evening. We also want to put a big thanks in tonight to the Sharks, who were very kind last weekend to spend a part of their Saturday demonstrating rule breaking out on the water, and we've got quite a lot of video of that we're going to share with you, and we'll have a chance to talk about it. So there we are. With no further ado, I'm going to get started. The basic way we're going to play this is that I'm going to talk about the slides and the boring stuff, and Ben is going to illustrate the slides with the video and basically be the good guy.
That's if I can work the computers. So
yeah, we have technical problems. We will do our best. We've been coached quite a bit on the technical stuff, but it's a bit beyond us. Right.
Tom,
so
just before we keep going, if they are in the Zoom and they want to ask a question,
yep.
I think the chat works very well. If you want to ask a question in the Zoom, I have the chat question open. So type it in, and when we find a good appropriate break, we'll try and address your questions. Okay?
Okay, so let's get going. So what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about the Rule 42 rule and the sub-rules within it. The rules are pretty difficult to understand, and what is really critical is what the interpretations say. World Sailing publish the interpretations of Rule 42, and everybody should download that and have a look at that, because that gives you chapter and verse on what you're allowed to do. If we have a chance, we'll talk about what are the common infringements for each class, and we'll try and tell you what the on-the-water judges do and give you an idea how we work and how you can work with us.
Okay.
So the session is intended for all sailors, whether they're racing sailors or coaches or judges. We all have to know the rules. The fundamental rule, as you all know, is what it says on the screen. We can only use wind or water to gain or decrease speed, and we must not move the bodies to propel the boat, but we can trim or perform acts of seamanship. Now, illegal propulsion works. So I'm going to demonstrate, if it works, how I can illegally propel this chair across the room.
Right, give us a moment and we shall try and show what's going on.
Okay, well, you need to maximize me.
You can see it.
Can you maximize me?
Doesn't matter.
Sorry?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No, I don't think so, because...
Okay, now, my feet are not touching the floor. I can move this chair across the room. Now, you can do the same in a boat. You can make a boat propel through the water by illegally moving your body. So I just wanted to show you that illegal propulsion does work. Some limited use of propulsion is allowed, and that's what this talk is all about, to give you an idea of where the limits are and what you can do and what you can't do and what the judges are going to be looking at. So jumping right into what Rule 42 says, it says that the following actions are prohibited: pumping, rocking, ooching, sculling, excess tacking or gybing, and, just in case we've missed something, anything else which propels the boat. So, as I said a few moments ago, sometimes some things are allowed, and we'll deal with that as we go through it. So the first illegal action is pumping. Well, it's pretty difficult to decide what pumping is and what rocking is, but the way I look at it is that pumping is something you do either by pulling on the main sheet or jib sheet, or by making the sails slick by bouncing up and down on the windward rail. The mast basically does not move from the vertical in a pumping action. And we have a couple of videos of pumping, and Ben is going to talk about it.
Okay, so I hope you can all see this video. This is a bit of a test for us. We'll look at this one first, shall we? Some of you will recognize these kids here from the HHYC who were very kind to allow us to film them cheating. This is the only chance that we're going to get. So these are all actors. Thank you very much to the HHYC. Let me show this video again and we'll talk about what we can see in a bit more detail. Whoops, let's go back. Focus on the boat 330 and you'll see her body going back and forth. She's trying to pump her sail, and we'll talk about rocking in a moment. They're very similar, but this person is trying to pump her sail, use her body weight to get that little bit of extra drive in. Okay, if I can replay that, there we go. I'll replay that again. And that's a very short clip. Now, I'm just trying to, we've lost your chat here, so let me just go back and see if I can find the chat. Tom, do you want to just talk about what was happening there for a moment?
Okay, well, we saw the girl there moving her body in and out forcibly. Quite often we see, particularly in single-handers, we see the helmsman actually jumping or bouncing on the windward rail and causing the sails to flick. So a sail that's flicked as a result of either rapid moving in and out with the body or bouncing up and down is what we call a body pump. But as well as a body pump, we've got a sheet pump, and I think Ben's going to show us a sheet pump.
So that's the body pump, and then we're going to see this video, the same girl, and this is actually a bit more clearer of a breach. Very obvious that she's using her main sheet. She's pulling the main sheet quite hard, and as judges, we're actually looking at the leach of that main to see what's happening and whether that arm movement is actually causing that leach to flick. So we'll play this again. Whoops, try and go backwards. There we go. It's quite obvious to see someone who is sheet pumping. You'll see how much her arm needs to move in order to get that boom to flick and cause some drive. Okay.
Okay, so what the exceptions say in the rule, and we'll deal with this in more detail when we come to interpretations, is that one pump of each cell per wave to initiate pumping or planing is allowed. Now, the key issue here is initiate pumping or planing. If the sailor pumps once and doesn't initiate planing, then he's putting himself in a dangerous zone, which we'll talk about in a moment. If the boat is already planing, then pumping does not initiate it. So any pumping, if the boat is already planing, has got to be illegal. Any comment, Ben?
I'd say this is probably one of the least or the most misunderstood and misquoted rules. I was talking to a friend the other day who told me pumping once per wave was okay, but he forgot to add in there the important part to initiate planing or surfing. So many people think you can pump once per wave and that's okay. Actually, the full rule says the exception is pumping once per wave to initiate planing or surfing.
Okay.
If your boat doesn't plane, then you wouldn't be able.
You have not initiated it, so your pump is dodgy.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with that in a minute.
If there's no waves, then you can't say you're pumping to initiate surfing because you can only surf with waves. So it's actually quite easy for the judges again to determine whether it's it's an illegal pump or not.
Okay, so moving on, the next illegal action is rocking. So what we said here is it's an action that causes the boat to roll and the mast moves in the vertical plane from heeling one way to heeling the other way. So there's some things that rolling is all right. It can be caused by waves, and that's okay. And you can roll to help yourself steer. So if you roll to leeward, the boat will go up to windward, and there are circumstances when that's okay. And you can roll through a tack or a jibe. The roll tack is a maneuver that most people are very familiar with. There are some limitations, and we'll talk about the limitations in a minute. Now, we have a couple of examples of rolling, which Ben is going to show us and talk about.
Well, let's watch the video first. I hope you can all see this. Once again, we're looking at our friend in the blue boat, the blue top there. In fact, both of them up ahead. The key here is you can obviously see the masts moving quite drastically as these two girls are trying to demonstrate how to cheat by rolling. Remember, if, as Tom just said, the rolling is the mast moving in the vertical plane. Now, what we can definitely see as well is this girl leans forward and causes the mast to go in that direction. And therefore, I think we'd all agree that that mast is moving because of her body movement. And that's what we're looking for. We're trying to connect the movement of the sail with the movement of the body, and these clear examples show the body is causing the sail to move in those directions. Some people, or sometimes it might be the wave, or I've lost it. It might be the waves, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay, well, let's move on. So the next illegal action is ouching. Now, ouching is, we've got
2B, we've got another video.
No, that was, we've just done that.
Oh, okay.
Move on to the next slide. Okay. Ouching is what I was doing to that chair. If you move your body rapidly forwards and stop, then the inertia will cause the boat to carry on. And you can see that that chair was moving quite well, even though the wheels are pretty sticky. If you were on water, then that sort of motion would have moved the boat forward quite a lot. There are no exceptions to ouching. It's illegal. So we'll We'll have a look at a girl trying to ooch, but not quite getting there. Oh, we haven't got that.
No, we took it out.
We'll do that later on. Okay. The next illegal action, and I'm going through these very quickly because we'll talk to them in more detail when we look at the interpretations. The next illegal acts are tacking and gybing. A tack which is done illegally, but done well illegally, if you understand what I mean, can end up with the boat coming out of the tack faster than when it went in. A boat which is doing a lot of tacks and gaining a little bit of speed each time they do it is going to move forward in the fleet. So the judges are looking for tacks, and the same thing applies to jibes, which are not related to the wind or to the need to gain a tactical position. So that if the judges see a boat doing a lot of tacking and gaining, they're going to be having a good look at it and decide whether that guy or girl was doing it to gain advantage. And again, no exceptions are defined. There's no circumstance where multiple tacks, which are not required, are allowed. Okay, sculling is the next one. We were looking at the oppies. Oppies have a big rudder, and it's very effective sculling in an oppie. And we have several videos which show that. And in a moment, Ben's going to be showing one which just shows what we mean. Now, the rule does have some exceptions before I get Ben to show the video. The first thing is that if you're above close haul, you may scull down to a close haul course. And that's basically if you're in irons or you're stuck head to wind. The rules allow you to scull to get yourself into a position where you can be sailing. Also, and it's something people don't think about, but you can slow down by repeatedly moving your helm and using your rudder as a brake. You might want to do that to gain a tactical position somewhere, and that's all right. But let's just have a look at what we mean by sculling then.
Okay. So that was the end of the pumping video. We're going down to
4A.
4A. Yeah. Okay, so let me toggle that off. Is this the one?
Earlier one.
Beg your pardon, folks.
Oh, not that. Not that one.
Okay. Did we put 4A in the playlist?
Yep.
Well, that was the sculling below close haul. 4A1. This one. Yep.
No, number 9. Scull close haul. The one above. Number 9.
Okay, so aside from the cheesy music I put on, what we're looking at here is this girl using her rudder. She sculls down to close haul and starts sailing. I'll show you that again. She is above close haul at the beginning of the video. She sculls her way down to close haul, puts her main tensions on and starts sailing. That is okay. You're allowed to scull from above close haul down to the close haul course to get yourself going. Any questions on that? Because we actually find this a little bit quite confusing for people, the rules around sculling.
Okay. Next one. Right, so Okay. So the rules understand that people are inventing new ways of making the boat go faster all the time. And so there's a catch-all in there that says any other action except the wind and the waves, which make the boat go. Now, there are some exceptions. You're allowed propulsion to help a person or a boat in danger, so you even start your engine to go and rescue somebody or scull across to them or row or whatever. Or if you're grounded, you're allowed to use something to get off. You may, the sailing instructions may require you then to declare that you used your engine to get off the mud, and there may be some penalty defined in the sailing instructions. But you won't be penalised under Rule 42 for that action if you're getting clear. So as I said earlier, let's have the next one. As I said earlier, there is a document called the Interpretations, published by World Sailing, which everybody should download and get a copy of. And the idea of the interpretations is that it's to help judges and sailors make consistent decisions. So sailors don't get penalised when they weren't expecting to, and judges know exactly what the rest of the world is doing in terms of penalising a particular action. They're not easy to sort out. We do have a crib sheet which helps sort them out logically and helps, and I'm sure if you talk to Queenie at Hebe Haven, Queenie will give you a copy of the crib sheet. Yep. So, but we're not going to go through every single interpretation tonight. You want to get some dinner and we want to go home, so we'll just deal with the main ones. Right, so let's deal with pumping. So as we said earlier, sheet pumping is allowed on a wave or if a gust of wind comes across, but it's only allowed to initiate planing or surfing. Planing, not planning. Planing or surfing. Actually, it's a bit more complicated than that because we know it doesn't always work. So your first attempt at pumping on a wave to get planing is okay, and you're not going to be penalised. The second attempt is a better work, otherwise you're in what we call the yellow light area. You're in a dodgy position if the second one didn't work. And you better not try it again if you don't get planing on the third attempt. You will be penalised. So that's pretty clear. If the first one doesn't work, the second one, you're allowed another go, and then you can't do it the third time. Now, we had a question last week. If the waves were really small and there was no possibility of planing on a wave, were you allowed one pump on a wave? And we've had a bit of a brainstorm on that, and our decision is no, you're not. If it's not planing or surfing conditions, then you're not allowed to pump at all. And in fact, the first thing the judges do when they're on a reach where there might be pumping is to agree between each other, are these planing or surfing conditions, and is pumping going to be allowed? So if they're not, then pumping isn't allowed.
To put that simply, if the wind speed is so low that there's no chance your boat can plane, you can't pump.
Correct.
If the wind speed is higher, that there's a possibility that you could plane, then that's when you're probably allowed to have a go once, have a go again, third time you're out.
Yeah.
So similar with the waves. If there's no waves, you can't pump and say you're trying to surf because you can only surf on waves.
Yeah, now you can try, They don't have to be waves generated by the wind, incidentally. If a speedboat comes across and gives you a big wake, then you're perfectly entitled to try and make use of his stern wave to get planing.
Yeah. If there's small waves or waves that might start you surging you forward, i.e. surfing, you can have a go on that.
Yep.
First time the go, second go, if it doesn't work, we're going to be watching you. Third time, you're out. So it all depends on the conditions, the type of boat you are, as well as to whether pumping once per wave or once per gust is legal or not.
Right. Now we showed you that girl body pumping. She wasn't very heavy, so she wasn't able to make the sail flick quite as much as somebody in a laser would do, but you got the idea. So body pumping, the interpretation is that one pump which causes one flick is dodgy. So you're in the yellow light area. So you're only allowed to try it once. If you do it a second time, you've broken the rule. So if the judge sees you doing that, he's going to blow the whistle.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, so rocking or rolling, whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So what the interpretations say is that one body roll which doesn't propel the boat is okay. That's just one roll, not multiple rolls. If the gust causes the boat to roll, again, that's okay. Not sure if I say waves later on, but if a wave causes the boat to roll, that's okay. Background rolling, I do say it further on, background rolling is okay. If the boat is unstable because you're standing up in it and you're not doing anything to make the boat roll, if it started rolling because of a wave, that's okay. However, if something happens to start the boat rolling and then the crew continues with body movement to keep the boat rolling, that breaks the rule. As I said earlier, rolling to steer is allowed. So if you if you're in waves and you want to luff up to get on the surface on the front of a wave, because you're going to bear away down it and plane on it, you can let the boat heel to leeward and you'll come up on the wave and then pull the boat up and bear away down the wave. And that's perfectly okay. But if you try that and there are no waves, then you break the rule because there's no excuse for doing it. We also talked earlier about rolling in a tack or jibe. Well, rolling in a tack to keep the speed in, come out at the tack at the same speed as you went in is allowed. But if you put a big roll on in a tack and you come out and the boat surges forward, and I think we may have some examples of that in the video, then that breaks the rule. The judges will be watching for a boat which may move forward from the boats round about it because it's just put a tack in and then slow up to the same relative position. And they may penalise that boat. Okay, so ooching. We said ooch.
Next slide one.
Sorry, 3A?
Video.
Probably which one? The next slide, anyway.
Yeah.
I think we saw the video of the girl trying to ooch, did we?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so ooching, moving forward to make the boat go forward, breaks the rule. You're allowed to...
Can I just respond to a question that has come in?
Yeah.
Someone asks, just to clarify, background rolling. Background rolling are the waves that are naturally around the boat, not caused by the sailor. In a slightly choppy sea, that's the background waves, and the rolling that a boat does in those waves, that's background rolling. So as you remember in the previous slide, Tom said the background rolling the boat doing that just because it's in a wavy sea is okay. You won't get penalised for that. Hope that answers the question.
But please keep the chats coming. Ask the question. Ben's on the computer here looking at the
I've
questions.
got my computer going up here. So hope that answers the question. Background rolling is okay.
Okay,
and
let's
we'll
go back to
Uchi
Uchi.
here.
Now, moving backwards and forwards in phase with the waves, but not doing it so forcibly that you are making the boat go forward. That's all right if you're just in phase with the waves and you're helping the boat go through the waves more smoothly.
I've just noticed the greens and the reds are wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that in flat water, then that breaks the rule. So you're allowed to talk if there are waves, if it helps the boat go through the waves more smoothly. Now we have a short video here, somebody who was trying to ooch.
Yeah.
3A, but the number of people.
Here we go. So this girl, let's see if I can get this right this time. Clearly I can't. This girl, we asked her to ooch, and you will see her body moving forward and aft. Now, that is what we mean by ooching, is her actual body is moving forward and aft ways. Talking is a bit of a twist. The demonstration that she gave us shows how the body is moving, but actually doesn't show it being that effective. She needs a bit more practice at that. So I hope you can understand that what she's trying to achieve is a body moving forward and aft. All right? Ooching.
Okay. So we're back to our old friend Sculling. Next one. Well, we said that sculling down to close haul is okay, and we've shown you a video of a girl who sculled from above close haul down to close haul to get herself safe. Once you've got to close haul, then you're not allowed to scull. Shall we see that video straight away? It's 4A1, I think.
4A1. Is it the next video? I hope it is. 2 forward, right?
Yeah.
So sculling.
That was
This was the
illegal
girl
one.
doing it correctly. Sculling's the first one and coming off. The next one is a sailor who's got a boat to windward of him. He's on the start line, and this sailor is trying to scull to get out of the wind shadow of the boat above. Now, every time it does that. So we can see him using his tiller hard to stay out of the wind shadow. Play it again. This person is sculling, but close hauled or below, that's not allowed. Next.
Okay, well, the next action that we see, particularly particularly in the office, is an oppie trying to hold the position on the start line by sculling it, starting at close haul and sculling a bit one way, and then put the tiller over and scull a bit the other way, and effectively hold the boat in more or less the same position to maintain their position on the start line. And we have a video of that one.
Okay, so hopefully it's the next one. So we can see the girl here. She's right up by the start line. She's just holding her position. She's sort of on starboard tack, at least she's sitting on the starboard side of her boat, sculling around a bit. She decides that she wants to go a little bit the other way, so she gets onto the other side of the boat, sculls that way, she goes back again, and this is certainly not allowed. She's sculling both ways. She's never actually getting to close hauled, and that would be illegal. Now, as a judge, we actually can see that happening quite easily because we can see that massive tiller and rudder movement, it's very clear for us to see what's going on.
I would say we see that in the oppies more than other classes.
The oppies of that huge tiller and sculling is actually quite effective, but certainly not effective if it's illegal, because you're going to get penalised. Anything more on that?
Yes,
video?
we have
another video, don't we?
The next illegal action is sculling against the backed mainsail. Sometimes the boom is held out by the hand. Sometimes the skipper is just leaning on the boom, or it's got his head on the boom to keep the boom out and sculls. So let's have a look at somebody doing that.
So once again, this video, I think that's my arm in the corner there, sorry about that. This girl here is experimenting with trying to disguise her cheating by using a body part other than her hand to hold her boom back. Now, what's happening is by backing the boom and sculling as well, she can actually move her boat left and right on that start line. It's quite effective.
It's what we call crabbing, because the boat is moving sideways. You can see it's moving into the start mark, so that's not very helpful for them.
Once again, if you're a judge, or if you're interested in judging or knowing how we can see that, it's actually very clear. We can see very easily when the sail is backed. We can know the wind is coming from this side. That sail is definitely backed. All we need to do now is look at the tiller, put the two together, and it's illegal. So the back sail and the sculling with the tiller is not legal, and that would earn this person a penalty.
Okay, thanks.
Just one more thing is she was using she was sort of using her body. We've seen people use their heads to hold the boom, shoulders, trying to disguise it. But it's easy for us to see a back sail and the helm going, so it doesn't really work.
Okay, one thing that is allowed is sculling to slow down, as I said earlier. If you move your rudder one way and then the other way, but you don't do it in a forceful way so that it drives you forward, the rudder acts as a brake, and because it's going both ways, you don't steer with it. And that's all right. If you want to slow down, you can do that. Okay, so the next illegal action is, next slide, tacking and gybing. Well, you remember that I said earlier, unless they're related to the wind or to other boats' position, repeated tacking and gybing breaks the rules. So the interpretation is very simple. Don't do it. Now, next slide, please, Ben. Some classes have exceptions as to what the classes can do to pump or to roll or other things in reduced wind conditions. In increased wind conditions. So the race officer will signal that by flying either an Oscar flag, which turns the relaxation on. So that means that you can now do the things which you normally can't do, or a Romeo flag which turns it off, which means you're back to the normal rules. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You've just got to check your class rules and watch the flags. Lasers don't have any, oppies don't have any, 420s, 470s, and some of the other bigger two-man dinghies have rules which are all different, all a bit different. So you've got to know your own rules. The judges usually get a radio call from the race office to say that Oscar's going up at the next mark, and that you shouldn't penalise anybody for Rule 42 for the time being.
Just if anyone is actually quite interested in seeing some propulsion at its best, the fin class, they actually promote it quite a lot in their sailing, and they're allowed to do it. They've decided as a class, let's have all sorts of propulsion going on, so you can see them doing it legally and professionally. it's quite interesting to see how the thin class handle propulsion rules.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the judges on the water. The first question we get asked is, the judges only see a little bit of the racing, they see part of the fleet, and is it fair for the judges to penalise just the people they can see? Well, I guess our answer would be that, first of all, we can see a lot further than you think. We can see a boat's mast rocking a long way away. We see some boat doing something different from the other. They're what we call a blue cow. They're pretty obvious in the herd of cows that they're different, and we are looking for blue cows, which is a boat which is doing something different, and we will normally, if we see that, we'll normally motor over to them and keep a good eye on them and see if we can see if they're breaking the rules. What I'd also say there is that after we've been judging in a regatta for a race or two, we very soon identify the sailors who are sort of very active on the water. Some sailors are very physical, and they tend to become judges' target. We probably shouldn't make them that, but we know they're very close to the
often
limit.
the sailor will draw attention to himself.
Yeah, they're very close to the limit,
yeah.
And we want to make sure they don't go beyond the limits. So, what is a judging process? Well, if we say somebody breaking a whistle, breaking a rule, we blow a whistle, a long whistle blow. We point the flag at the boat infringing, and we sail over to that boat and we hail the number. So we should be pretty obvious, it should be pretty clear if you've been penalised. But if you don't take your penalty, the added penalties are quite a lot more serious. So for your first offence, if it's the first time you've been penalised in a regatta, you have to do 2 turns. It's not 1 turn like it would be if you broke a normal rule of part 2. It's a 2-turn penalty. And if you don't do the turn, you will be disqualified from the race. And there's no appeal against the judge's decision. In the second offence in the regatta, your penalty is that you must retire from the race. If you don't retire from the race, you're going to be scored DNE, or do not exclude. So that will mean that your last place +1 score will be scored in that race, and you can't discard it later on. And the third offence in the regatta is that you have to retire from the race. You will be scored DNE automatically. If you don't, you'll be disqualified from the regatta, and there's always a possibility of a Rule 69 penalty against you. Now, I would say that you must look at the sailing instructions, because particularly the third offence is sometimes relaxed back to the same penalty as the second offence, particularly in junior regattas. But many clubs feel that where they're training people to become used to the rules and become familiar with them for bigger events, that they should use all 3 penalties. So you must read the sailing instructions. Okay. So what is it that we see? Well, at the start, the major penalties that we see are sculling and crabbing. We've shown you an example of that. We'll show you another one in a minute. Or a big rock combined with a pump as the gun goes to get yourself a good jump out at the start. Now, the sculling and crabbing there's a very clear interpretation, and you will be penalised for that. The rock and the pump at the gun is a little bit more difficult to decide. Our decision is, has that boat gained an advantage over the other boats around? You are allowed one rock and one pump, provided you don't accelerate beyond the speed of the other boats. So we have some more videos. So let's show you a different sculling and crabbing video, which is 4A1. Should be the next one.
4A1, let's have a look. Well, it's not. So,
There you've got 4A1. There you are. Up, up, up.
4A1.
Yep.
We've seen this.
You seen that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not that one. No, it's 4C1. I apologise, everybody.
So this is. Okay, so apologise for that. Now, our girl in blue, the blue top here, sail number 330. We talked about backing the sail and sculling can make you go sideways, and she's actually doing a really good job of it here. And that's what we call crabbing. Very obviously done, but it definitely shows how she can move sideways. Once again, it's easy for us to see that, the back sail, the helm and the tiller going makes it obvious to us. In this video, we're looking to see this rock at the start, and as Tom said, we're asking ourselves, did they gain an advantage over the other boats? Now,
3, 2, 1.
he certainly heels the boat to leeward, and she does her best to put all her weight onto her windward rail and get going. We'll be looking at that quite carefully. I'm not sure I would penalise this one.
Well, she hasn't pumped at the same time. She didn't really seem to gain a lot of speed.
She didn't gain a lot.
2, 1.
So
If she had pumped, she would have shot forward there.
exactly, if she had put her main sheet in, she would have definitely gone forward. So I'd be watching her very carefully next time to see if she manages it next time. But
Yeah.
the whole point of this video is to see her actual body movement. She rocks the boat, all her body on there to try and get going.
Okay, we have another one which may be more, maybe show it
Yeah.
that it worked. So the next
The
one.
next video shows these two guys, this guy and this girl.
So we're talking at 304.
Yeah, we'll restart that one and try and explain. So, first of all, I want you to look at sail number 308. 308 is the red cap, and you watch his tack, and you'll see his boat accelerate forward quite effectively. There he goes.
Big surge.
That's the kind of thing that we're looking for when we're talking about that rock off the start, the rock and the pump off the start. He goes down to leeward, he surges forward. I'd like you now to look at this sail, the blue lettering on the sail. It's actually Hong Kong 304, because she's going to do a similar sort of thing, and we're going to be able to see her advantage gained as we judge her against the other boats. 304, she does a big tack, and we can see she goes forward against the red boat behind her. Watch that again. There she goes. Now, both of those are examples of kids trying their best. not hugely successful. And to be honest, as judges from this position, we can't really see their bodies. But we're trying to use these videos to show the concept that some boats start with. If we had more time, we might have got a more successful example. But I hope that gives people an idea. Just a comment from the chat there, talking about one of the slides previously. And it is a very good comment. It mentions that some boats changed their class rules from 2 turns to 1 turn. And that's why Tom said it's incredibly important that you know the class rules to watch your sailing, you know the SIs, because the different classes and the different events have different rules.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, the SIs never change Appendix P. The penalty is always 2 turns.
Right, okay. So thank you for the comment, and definitely the class rules are the ones to be as take note of the most. Okay. Let's go back to here. What do we have here?
Next PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of the infringements on the beat. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for pumping or body pumping. We've seen examples of that. Excess tax, well, we haven't shown you that, but I'm sure you understand that. Attack that gains advantage from a roll. We've got a little video on that, which I'll show you in a minute. We're looking for boats who are not quite making the windward mark and maybe luffing up a bit and sculling to just get round the windward mark. We're looking for that. And this is a good point for me to talk about the difference between tactical infringements of Rule 42 and technical infringements. Very often the infringement is instant. It's rock at the start, it only happens once in a race, or it's a quick pump to get clear of a windward boat. And one judge sees it and the other one doesn't. What we're usually doing at the start and maybe later on in the race is we're looking at different parts of the course so that we cover a wider angle. So only one judge will see it. But if we see an incident like that, it's no good saying to the other judge, did you see it, watch it, because the incident's gone. So that's we call a tactical infringement, and one judge will make an instant decision on whether you've broken the rule. If it's a technical decision, it's something that maybe the girl is body pumping on the beach, and she's been doing it for a little while, and the judge that sees it will nudge his partner and say, have you seen that girl there, number 304, I think she's body pumping, what do you think? And the other judge will look at it and say, yes, I think I agree and will penalise, or, well, I think let's just give her a bit longer, or something like that. So for a technical decision, which is about your technique and how you're sailing the boat, we tend to confer before we give the penalty. For a tactical decision, we'll give that penalty instantaneously. Right, so let's just go back to the next video then, which is 6A.
Yeah.
That's it, where your cursor is.
So
yeah. That's the one.
So this was the
okay, we talk about it. It's an attack with a rope.
Well, this is just a general roll attack, isn't it?
Yeah.
And very well executed by this girl. She heels the boat to leeward. She comes up, and in one movement, she comes up to the rail, but you notice there's nothing actually happening after that. That's okay. She's allowed to do this. What she wouldn't be allowed to do is to try and then make the sail roll in again and have another little pump out of that.
Well, or even we see with oppids at the top level sometimes, we see them jump from the bottom position so their body is well above their boat and come down on that windward rail with a crash, and very often jump forward so that their legs contact the centre thwart, so they've both done an ooch because they've jumped forward, and they've done an excess roll because their boat comes out of the tack faster than you went into it, and that would be illegal. But this girl has done a good tack. It's just a good opportunity to talk about that tacking technique, which we do see and which we would normally penalise.
Okay.
So, and next one. Next, what do we see on the reach? Well, the most common infringement on the reach is pumping. We've talked about pumping. We won't go through that again. Pumping on the sail, because reaching is where you're most likely to get planing. So pumping is what we're looking for. And if the wind is light, we may see rocking. And I'm afraid in the Oppie fleet, we do see sculling as well. So it's really a mixed bag on the reach. On the run, rocking is the main issue on the run, especially with single-handers. This snaking technique of rolling the boat first to leeward and then to windward, and effectively disguising it as an alteration of course. If there are no waves, then you will be penalised, or you should be if the judges are on the board. Pumping happens on the run as well, so we're watching for that. Now, really what we're looking for on the run is one boat going faster than the rest of the fleet? Now, that could be unfair because it could just be that he's got a faster boat or he's sailing better. But if one boat is going faster, then we're going to be watching him to see, is there a reason? If we can't see a reason, he's fine. But we're going to be on his case and watching why he's going faster. So the final leg of the course is usually the reach to the finish. That last rounding of that last turning mark before you go into the reach is often absolutely critical to gain or break the overlap and a wind shadow position. So we're definitely watching for anybody pumping or rocking round that last mark to see whether there's an infringement there. And as they go down the reach, it's typically pumping to get either to break the wind shadow or to get on top of the other guy's wind and just make or lose that last place in the race. So that really takes us all the way around the course. We've got a recap on the penalties. So just to be clear, because we really don't want to throw you guys out of a race because you haven't understood the penalty system. So if it's your first penalty in the regatta, sail clear and do 2 turns. If it's your second penalty, sail out of the race. You have to sail right out of the race, not impede the other people in the race. Very often it's a good idea to give the judges a wave so they know that you have seen that you've got a penalty and that you're getting out of it. And in the third penalty, you retire from the race, and unfortunately you've got a do not exclude score. But again, make sure the judges know that you are doing something positive about it to get out of the race. We certainly don't want to disqualify somebody from the whole regatta because we didn't understand that they were finding it difficult to get out of the race. Now we have a couple more videos to light things up.
Just to comment on the last comment there, which again reiterates, please read the sailing instructions. The sailing instructions may be telling you to go and look at your class rules. Class rules may change that. So I know there's a lot of people in the event this weekend. I actually haven't seen those sailing instructions yet, but please do go and have a look and make sure you know how these penalties are applied in that event.
Yeah.
Very important. Thanks again, Kathy. Okay.
So let's show the last two videos, and then are there any questions? You might show the first two that I missed out.
So I'm just having a look here just to see if we have
We've got 7.
missed a couple. So,
Yeah, we missed the first two, which were a bit of fun.
so what we'll do, actually, why don't we just go from the top here, because there's quite good videos. So this girl here is clearly breaking a basic rule. There's no doubt about that. I must admit, these Heebie-Haven sharks, the Heebie sharks that we were working with, they had so much fun. We told them it was the only time they could break the rule. And they loved it, yes. We saw this video, this next one. Oh, no, we didn't. Here it goes. Once again, he trying his best to break Rule 42 and succeeding quite nicely.
We've got one of him bailing, rocking and bailing, which we missed.
We have this one here. See if you can spot not only the rule, well, it said it in the title there, but clearly sail number 303 is rocking. You can see the boat is going from side to side. You can see his body going from side to side, but he's trying to disguise this by pretending he's actually bailing water out. This happens surprisingly more than you would expect, and it's surprisingly easy for us to spot, because the giveaway here is that there is no water coming out of his bailer. So rocking and bailing.
Well, even if there was, he's still breaking the rule.
Still breaking the rule. So
okay, so let's do 7, the last but one.
yeah. Let's just see if there's any more here that we didn't. So this next video is, well, I'm just going to play it and let you watch it. It's about a minute long. How do I get to it? Okay, here we go. As you watch this video, see if you can spot any Rule 42 breaches. I'm sure you'll be able to.
Good job it's muted, otherwise we'd hear the laughter.
Yes. This is quite interesting because this girl in blue is trying to pump as much as she can. Meanwhile, her mate actually does a better job of getting past her on the outside there.
See, she's rocking the boat. She's actually is bailing, but she's still breaking the rule by rocking the boat.
Wasn't paying attention to the course.
This one's doing it much more energetically.
We can actually see her boat is actually getting propelled quite well from those moves. So
If she gets around the bottom mark first.
So that's a bit of fun. These girls had so much fun that day, and we thank them a lot for that.
Yeah.
We thank their coach who allowed us to go with that. So I think that's pretty much it for what we have.
That's pretty much it, yep.
One last video, actually. We do have this one here, which amused me. Leads us to the question of, if the propulsion isn't successful, but you're trying it anyway, does it break a rule? I'm not going to answer that, but I don't know what he was thinking he was going to gain by paddling backwards. with that in mind, folks, I think that's the end
That's
of what
it.
we have.
Any questions?
Apologies for some technical difficulties. It's the first time we tried to integrate the video. Are there any questions on what we've said? Anything that needs clarifying, reiterating?
Stick them on the chat, because unless you want to open the audio up, then.
Well, we could, yeah, we could do. I have to go here.
Yep.
And
Unmute.
so I've opened the audio to all of you. If you need to ask a question, we'll give a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes. I'll get back and find. I just think this guy's funny. So I don't see there's a thanks. Thank you very much for the thanks. I think there's no questions at the moment. People are probably trying to think hard.
But do send us questions. We can answer them after the event.
I think the key is that there is information out there. There's a ton of videos on YouTube. We wanted to try and make some of our own videos, so that was the aim with using some Hong Kong sailors, and we're hoping to build our bank of Rule 42 breaches over the coming year.
We'll do it with some different classes, so you're all part of the fun.
But I hope the videos made it a little bit clearer, and I think that's all from us. Thank you very much.
And on behalf of PB Haven Yacht Club and the Hong Kong Sailing Federation, I would like to thank very much Tom and Ben for the enormous amount of time and effort they've put into this presentation, and hopefully we'll all see it on the HKSF web in the future and we can refer to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good fun doing it.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to shut down that Zoom feed. Thank you very much for all of the.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
We will stop there. Okay. Who's this person?
Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Still time for your question if you haven't disappeared.
I think. Okay, so I'm going to end this. I guess the.
Yep, we'll end it.